This crew! This is undoubtedly the seediest bunch of cutthroats, villains, and scoundrels I have ever seen, so who hired them? Your finger hired the crew?
No, that's silly. The man who lives in my finger hired the crew. Mr. Bimbo. What? Ah, yeah, he relied heavily on the advice of our excellent cook, Long John Silver.
A cook? And a guy who lives in a bear's finger?
Exactly. Ooh.
I'm starting to worry about this voyage.
Every storm we ride is its own reward.
And people die by falling overboard.
People die by falling overboard. Hey-ho, we'll go anywhere the wind is blowing. Hoist the sails and sing.
Sailing for adventure on the big blue thing.
Welcome back to Disney Marvels for a week of February 14th, 2021. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone, and President's Day in the United States, and Happy Lunar New Year to everyone celebrating that. This is episode 122. Disney Marvels, the show about Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Muppets, Pixar, 20th Century, the parks, and much, much more. If it has to do with Disney, it's fair game. I'm your host, Matthew Graken. This week's poll put out there on Twitter. Again, if you're not on Twitter, well, unfortunately not much you can do about that. But if you are on the Twitter, make sure to follow at Disney Marvels. Every week I've been trying to put out a poll and see what's your thoughts on stuff. And got quite an impressive response on this week's. This week the poll was, has WandaVision improved in its as it's moved along? So I want to know your thoughts. What were your thoughts on it? And the choices were definitely improved, kind of improved, not really, and gotten worse. Every response got touched on, and I even got some interesting discussions going on about the story and about the first episodes, and a lot of discussion going on too. It was great. Definitely a popular poll. So 4% want to, gotten worse. 5% want to, not really. 8% said kind of improved. And if you're doing your math along with me, you'll know that 83% of you out there definitely thought it's improved since episode 1. That it keeps getting better. And I actually did enjoy the first 2 episodes that everyone kind of poo-poos. And I enjoy those, and I still think it's gotten progressively better. And I feel those 2 episodes were keystone and important. I know I've said this before. You've heard me say this before. And that's what's made everything that's come after it even more interesting, because we have that history and because we have an idea of where things were. We had a baseline of what was going on. And even in that baseline, some things did not seem right, and now it's all looping together and coming together, and wow, they just keep going and keep going with it, and it's hard to believe we only got 3 episodes left. Kind of sad in some ways, but interesting to see how it wraps up. And on that note, we'll be back after these messages from our friends and sponsors.
Hey guys, Rob for Alt Universe here. Are you into nerdy things like Pokemon, Marvel, and Disney? You've come to the right spot. We have videos, we have games, we have contests. We just do all sorts of fun. Whether it's going live during the week or posting about an article about a new movie coming out, we do everything we can to keep you in the know and have some fun. Oh, and we have swag too. So come on. We're everywhere social media can be found, and we want you to become part of our family. Stay nerdy.
And now, on with the show. it's come to my attention that not so many years ago, around this time, in fact, yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this, on the 16th of February, 1996, a movie was released. Not just any movie, a Muppet movie, but not just any Muppet movie. Muppet Treasure Island was released February 6th, right around this time, 1996. And yeah, just a significant movie in the Muppet history. And it definitely needs to be celebrated, definitely needs to be talked about. And since it's Muppets, I had to bring on someone that knew how many steps it takes to get to the treasure chest. And that would be, of course, Matt Leonard. Matt,
I'm sailing for adventure.
As long as you don't have cabin fever,
Okay.
we're okay. Because nowadays,
We're going to talk about that.
yeah, you won't be allowed into buildings if you have that.
No. I think seriously, I'm surprised that I haven't seen the Cabin Fever song. We're this far into the pandemic, and I have yet to see the Cabin Fever song go viral. Like, that should be the most viral video right now, because I think that's kind of how we're all feeling.
Yeah, no, everyone will do. We're all in this together from High School Musical, but not the Cabin Fever one. And to me, Cabin Fever comes more to mind than.
I think it's time for everyone to get cabin fever.
I
think we need to like make this the most viral video ever in the history of. Step aside, TikTok. We're doing cabin fever. All right,
Remind me, I'll start that this week on
yes.
I'm gonna flood social.
I bet you. I will bet you anything that. We're recording this Friday night, but I will bet you that by the time you post this, I'm saying this, I'm calling this in the future, but everybody's going to be listening to me call this in the future in the past, that on Tuesday, February 16th, Disney will post Cabin Fever. It will be all over the internet in celebration of the 25th anniversary of Treasure. That is how they will celebrate Treasure Island, because I can't think of anything that deserves to go more viral right now.
No, that is too appropriate.
I have this amazing. One of the reasons I love the Muppets is because there's sort of a sketch or song for every occasion. There's always something that sort of speaks. The Muppets are about honesty and truth, and there's something in there that speaks to the truth that's in all of us. And I think right now the honesty and the truth is Cabin Fever. So let's talk about Treasure Island and celebrate the 25th anniversary of this movie, and
not Coddleston Pie.
And not Coddleston Pie. No, well, we can talk about Coddleston Pie too, because that's a beautiful, written by A. Milne. That's an A. Milne poem. It's from the Songbook of Pooh, and Rolf sang it
beautifully
on the Muppet Show. Beautifully. Jim, nobody knows there's this weird recording that Jim did that nobody knows the history of. They sort of found it after Jim's passing, where there were like these 12 songs that he recorded as Rolf, and nobody knows why. He just did it, and they found it and released it as an album called Old Brown Ears Is Back. So he recorded it for the show.
He did it on album.
It's a wonderful album. It's worth seeking out and trying to find someone who has the files, and then at Jim's memorial service, they did a medley of favorite. The Muppet performers did a medley of Jim's favorite songs, and Frank sang Coddleston Pie as Fozzie Bear. They did the songs as the characters, but without the puppets. They just sort of stood there as the five of them, and it's beautifully, very well done and very funny. There's actually a really, really funny moment where Frank is singing this song. There's a sort of high note that he has to hit, and just as he's leading up to this song, you see Steve Whitmire, Dave Goelz, and Kevin Clash all looking at each other conspiratorially, and as Frank zeroes in on his high note, the three of them sneak up behind him, they grab the stool that he's sitting on and they hoist him into the air on his high note and completely catch him by surprise. It's very funny to watch. Again, worth seeking out on YouTube, Jim Henson's memorial service. So now that we've discussed Coddleston Pie, why do you do these things to me? You know that I'm not going to talk about... I'm here to talk about Treasure Island, and I was about to bring up the fact that it's the 25th anniversary of Muppets Tonight as well.
Yes.
Which I'll call this one for the future. We're getting the Muppet Show on Disney Plus at the end of the week. I'm thinking by fall at least. I'm thinking sometime late summer, early fall. We're going to see Muppets Tonight on Disney Plus as well.
I wouldn't think they would have as much of an issue trying to bring in.
It's 13 episodes. Almost all of the celebrities who were on that are still alive, so you can negotiate contracts. Most? Who am I missing?
Prince.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. With the exception of Prince, but that's going to be a lot easier to... And Disney produced... I don't know if it was on ABC, so Disney's got some stake in
aired
that.
it, so there's already
it aired on the first season, aired on ABC, and the second season aired on, wait for it, the Disney Channel. Yeah, so I think you'll see Muppets. So happy anniversary Muppets Tonight, and happy anniversary Muppets Treasure Island, which at some point we're going to talk about.
We're a month early on Muppets
Tonight. Word from our sponsors. No.
I just did that.
Oh, good. Oh. I wasn't paying attention. I was sailing for adventure.
That's all right. I haven't recorded that part yet either.
All right. Well, there you go. So I'm going to call this in the future for somewhere in the past. You're going to do a brilliant commercial for this. You're going to do a brilliant ad for the sponsors for this podcast. But I haven't heard it yet. But everybody else has heard it, and they're going to go, that was a really great ad. What is this guy talking about?
So I just usually do a video montage. Not a video, a picture montage of...
Picture montage of various cheeses.
Yes. Speaking of cheese.
Yes.
Let's hit the play button and get this thing rolling.
Oh, are we doing... we're going to... Like we did with our Christmas Carol review, we're going to... Are you going to give me a countdown so we can go like 3, 2, 1 and we'll start it together?
Sure.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Click. Okay. Oh, I've got the sunrise already.
So do I. Walt Disney Pictures.
Walt Disney Pictures presents. So you can follow along at home. We started the film literally just before the first notes of the movie.
Yep.
And this is just beautiful cinematography here. You can listen to this along at home. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear the bells chime like this. Ah!
Hold on to the glasses.
I'm going to wake up my kids doing this show.
Wait a second. Miss Piggy's in this one. I didn't realize that. Remind me again, are we doing the Disney Marvels podcast or is this Mystery Science Theater?
It's kind of Disney Marvels podcast does Mystery Science Theater at this point. No, let's talk about, because this is just a wonderful, very similar to the opening they did on Christmas Carol. This is just a wonderful, they do something different on... Brian Henson is the only Muppet director to do this. Jim was all about getting the characters outside and making the characters look real and bringing them into the outside, bringing them into the real world, which was kind of neat and groundbreaking all in its own way. But unfortunately, because of that, a lot of what Jim did... I say Jim, but also Jim Frawley and Frank Oz as well, because that's the Muppet movie. Jim Frawley directed the Muppet movie. Jim directed Caper. Frank directed Muppets Take Manhattan.
Yeah.
And they're all sort of very static. It's sort of point the camera and shoot. And, except for a couple of shots where, like, the Muppets are, like, walking down the street in New York City or whatever. But because they're in Brian went into the studio... was in a big movie studio, you get all these really wonderful shots.
Sal.
There's a cameo by Sal Manila, or the puppet that would become Sal Manila.
Yeah, because different voice.
Yep, Jerry Nelson voiced him in the movie, and then, of course, Brian Henson took that puppet and turned it into this wonderful They're the only CGI you'll ever see in the first 5 Muppet movies, the little mosquito things there. And already I've forgotten what I was talking about before we talked about Sal and the mosquitoes.
Static opening.
Oh, I was right. I was talking about these wonderful sort of camera angles and these wonderful camera shots where the camera can kind of move through this universe in a way. And you can cut holes in the sets, and so you can get these sort of full-body shots of the characters. I think it's more evident, the full-body shots of the characters is more evident in Christmas Carol than it is in here, but...
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this great shot here with the snakes coming up in the foreground. It's just some beautiful work. And this is also just a great song. I have this thing I want to... and I don't know if I can talk about this. For those of you who indulge in adult beverages, I want to play a game where you take a drink every time Jerry Nelson sings a line of a song as an unnamed character, and I'm fairly certain you won't even know your name by the end of the first song, because we talked in Christmas Carol, I think, is some of Jerry Nelson's best work. He does so many great characters in Christmas Carol. Or he does some really fine acting in Christmas Carol as Robin, as the Ghost of Christmas Present, as Statler. But Treasure Island is such you really get to see Jerry's range in this, because he voices so many characters, particularly in the opening song, in Sailing for Adventure, in Cabin Fever, and then all the actual characters he's puppeteering throughout the film. I mean, you get a real sense of Jerry's range. It's amazing. And we have Billy Connolly here, who's one of my favorite comedians, playing Billy Bones.
Strangely enough.
Yep. And then
he takes great pride in what happens a little bit later.
He's this film was so, the casting of the human actors in here in terms of their celebrities, where usually they kind of like load the Muppet films up, or at least the Jim Henson Muppet films, they load with celebrity cameos, but these are really well cast. I mean, Billy Connolly plays really well with the Muppets, and he walks this fine line between, so this is such silly stuff with him
grabbing Gonzo,
and the death scene later. I'm spoiler alert. The scene he does later on, the death scene, is like one of the funniest scenes in the movies, and he so natural. And then there's Jennifer Saunders, who I love. She's another natural fit for the Muppets.
She plays in well.
She plays in really well. And a little piece of Henson trivia here. This is not her first time working with the Hensons. There's Rolf in the background. And Robin's also and Bean Bunny are also in the background of this scene.
I missed Bean. There's
Bean's
Rolf.
coming out there he goes. Bean goes out the doorway there.
Yep.
But Jennifer Saunders was also, she and her comedy partner Dawn French were in an episode of Jim Henson's The Storyteller, which I think is now on Amazon Prime, and if you've never seen it, holy cow, the greatest thing put on television. Really, really Jim's most beautiful work. It's a beauty. He produced 9 episodes of this series retelling European folk tales, and
wait, we've seen this gag before.
Yeah. And French and Saunders are play basically Cinderella's wicked stepsisters, sort of, in an episode called Stab Sorrow. So Jennifer Saunders, this is a great scene. My friends and I used to quote this scene all the time. I hate my life. I hate your life too. If I had a life, I'd hate it. Which is a wonderful line.
But again, harking back to Christmas Carol with Gonzo and Rizzo and a lamp.
As lamplighters, yeah. This is all just really, really funny. Some very funny dialogue in here. All this to the east, to the Zanzibar, to eat the Zanzibar barbarians.
Yes, he keeps on referring to everything in Zanzibar.
They're about to break into a song here, and I don't know if you know about this, Matt, but there's sort of a funny, sad thing. You'll notice that Kevin Bishop, who plays Jim Hawkins here, and he's actually very good, young actor. If you watch the film, you notice that when he breaks into song, his voice suddenly raises an octave.
Yeah, he sounds about a year or so younger.
Because there was this sort of funny, unfortunate thing where they recorded, he's 13, 14 years old when they made this movie. He was just at that age where he went into the recording studio, because the first thing they did was record the music on the film. He goes into the recording studio, they recorded all of the songs, and then in between that and actually starting production on the film, starting filming, his voice
Aging happens.
His voice broke, and his voice dropped an octave. So when you see him, when you hear him talking, he's doing all these things, and then when he goes into singing, it raises. But I love all this stuff. This has always been one of my favorite songs, and whenever I'm sort of stuck at some monotonous job, I think every job I've held in the last 20 years, I've ended up at one point or another singing this song to myself just to make myself feel better, because I live a sad and pathetic life like that.
Well, hence why you're on this show.
Yeah. I love the line in here, but I'll put my courage to the test, and I'll be by your side, and he'll be by your side. And of course, note the moose on the wall, which of course is right now it's not moving, but it's a puppet, and you'll see that come to life. And also kind of a nod to Jim Henson himself, who kept a papier-mâché moose on his office wall for reasons. It was something it was a project he did with his kids when they were young, and the papier-mâché moose stayed in the office.
Well, speaking of which, I going through my VHS, going off of this show, but staying with Jim, I found I think I sent you a video still I took of the screen about Sesame, and it's showing Jim in his office talking to Big Bird. Big Henson's Bird coming up with all these ideas of what he wants to do on the show.
Henson's Place. That's a great documentary on just 1985, 86, something like that. That was produced just before Labyrinth. Oh, we were talking about Jerry Nelson's Range. Here we go. Yeah. And also how good Billy Connolly is. But in comes one of my favorite characters in the whole film. This is such a funny character. This wonderful, tense moment. What's at the door?
Who's at the door?
Why
is at the door?
Look at this puppet. I mean,
the puppet's brilliant. It's almost something out of Dark Crystal.
This is a beautiful puppet. This is a Michael Frith design, if ever there was one. Michael Frith was head of. I think this is the last thing that one of the last projects he worked on with the Muppets before he parted ways with the Henson Company. But God, what a gorgeous puppet! And of course, we've got Jerry doing the voice and the characterization. This wonderfully funny French accent, over the top. He grabs the moose's head. I don't know who the puppeteer on the moose is, but that's very funny. And then they're doing this. They borrow from Swedish Chef a little bit, in that it's Jerry's doing the head. It's a live hand character, and this is Bill Beretta doing the hands. And Bill Beretta has said this was like one of the highlights of his career, was just doing the hands on this character, because it was so silly. And I mean, it's just a great character. And it walks this wonderful line between being scary and, I mean, this whole film, similar to Christmas Carol, walks this line between being scary and funny and dramatic. And I love the fact that Brian Henson was not afraid to do drama with the Muppets. I mean, he really is my favorite Muppet director for this reason. He shoots them in a dramatic way, and he lets his performers give dramatic performances, but they're comedy performances. They're comedy performers, and this wonderful, silly comedy comes out, and then stumbles out. And the sound work here, where he's not here. I mean, just the way that character moves is. I mean, that's a fully fledged character. And the cat, you hear the cat down the street.
Something I've noticed about this movie versus Christmas Carol, though, is Christmas Carol, they really tried to keep much more of a darker tone.
Right.
This one, they kind of play back and forth where you get these darker moments, and then you get a lot more comedy infused in it. And sometimes, at least to me, it felt like some of the comedy was a little too forced.
Yeah.
Like it didn't gel quite as well as it can in other moments.
Although I think this scene here where he's escaping and then he has the heart attack is... I remember just howling with laughter when I saw this in the theaters.
This is brilliant. This is a good moment.
And all those... Jimmy. That's my... I know so many people who quote that. Jimmy. Beware! We know, the one-legged man. No, running with scissors.
He died? This is supposed to be a kid's movie.
It's such a great... This is so funny, all of this stuff.
And this is Bill's proud moment of saying that I actually died in a Muppet movie.
Right, he's the only person to ever die in a Muppet movie. He has the unique distinction of being the only actor to ever die in a Muppet movie. It's the only death scene.
There's been many inferences. In Christmas Carol, you had inferences that these characters could die or these characters are dead, but no one has actually died. Even at the beginning of the movie, you have Blackbeard.
And then he pulls out the glasses.
The glasses from Caper.
Yeah. And then I love this gag here where they open up the map. This is all just such funny stuff. But going back to what you were saying, I remember reading. I love the money signs and the
dollar-sign eyes. You do a lot of eye work in this movie.
Yeah. I'm going back to what you were saying about the books. I remember reading Christmas Carol. When Muppet Christmas Carol came out, I remember there was a snowstorm that day, and I was stuck at home, and I looked across, and on my bookshelf was a copy of the book, the actual, Charles Dickens book, and I was like, oh, you know what, I'm going to see the movie tonight. I pulled the book off the shelf, and I read it, relatively quick read, and when I went to see it that night, I was blown away by how faithful they stayed to Dickens. And when I heard they were doing Treasure Island, and I'd seen a thing in the paper that they were making this movie, and I thought, all right, I will take the opportunity and I'll read Treasure Island. And I read Treasure Island in the weeks leading up to the release of this movie and in the months leading up, and I fell in love with the book. It's a wonderful story. It's so exciting. I love the way Robert Louis Stevenson wrote. A couple of racial things in there you have to sort of gloss over, but other than that, it's a wonderful book, a wonderful story, but also a very dark story. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there are a lot of characters in that story who die. Blind Pew is trampled by horses in the book, or Black Dog is one of them. I can't remember. Black Dog comes later. Black Dog is actually a character later in the books, I think, but Blind Pew is actually trampled by horses. I mean, it's pretty violent stuff. So, yeah, you kind of have to work a little harder to be lighter. And I think this scene, as we said, you take this scene where Billy Bones dies and you turn it into this comedic, funny thing. They do that again later on, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. Really, I think like the darkest scene in the entire book is one of the funniest scenes in the movie. And now we get to watch Jennifer Saunders beat Muppets. Up Muppets, and this is
liked
stuff. I have a personal affection for this movie because of where I was in life. I started building puppets when I was in high school, and it was probably Christmas Carol came out when I was a freshman in high school. I started building puppets going into my sophomore year. Toward the end of my sophomore year, I was asked to do a presentation or a show, and I had pulled two of my pals in to do characters do puppets with me. And by my junior year of high school, I had this sort of informal puppet company that I was now the head of. And we would get together and we would do stuff. It was me and 4 or 5 of my friends. And then this came out my senior year, which everybody kind of knew, like, okay, any stuff we're going to do with puppets, let's do it now and let's make it good, because this is the last chance that we're all going to have to do puppets together. And Treasure Island came out in my senior year, and it really was like required viewing for everybody, because they all did puppets kind of as a favor to me. You know, it was like, oh, Matt, you know, it was a chance to hang out with Matt and be a part of his world and see what this is about. And to having had this experience where they had all been under puppets and had some concept of what went into doing this kind of work, to have them then walk in and watch it through those eyes, it was not that it was required viewing for everybody. I didn't make it required viewing for them, but they all made it required viewing for them. Like, let's share in this together. And so when I watch this, I think of those people and their loyalty and friendship. And actually, one of the girls who did puppets with me, we dated a little at the time, and this was one of our first dates, was going to see this movie. So that's a thing. Oh, there goes, we just saw a little cameo there by George the janitor. And this is great. And then we got another special cameo coming up here. Trelawney and Son Master Shipbuilders, for people who don't know. They knock on the door, and it opens up, and out steps... Oh, I thought I was going to time that so well so that he'd step out, and now there's all this...
Yeah, not quite. You're just a second off. There he is.
Here he is. Here is Mr. Jerry Nelson himself, one of the finest puppeteers in the Henson Company. Floyd Pepper, Lou Zealand, Uncle Deadly, Blind Pew, who we saw a little while ago, Mad Monty, who we'll see in a little bit, Ghost of Christmas Present in Muppet Christmas Carol, Robin the Frog, Count Von Count, Gobo Fraggle, Harry Monster. I could do this all night. I could start listing Jerry Nelson's characters, and I probably wouldn't finish until the movie was over. So many characters. And then, like, literally every other line of every song in this movie. Jerry Nelson. And there he was. With it, usually Jerry had a beard that he wore, and he went to Brian Henson and said, I don't think this is going to work with my beard. I'm going to shave it off. This beard that he had almost his entire life. Said, no, you don't have to shave it. And he went and did it.
Well, we just finally got introduced to Fozzie, which I'm sure you know that Frank Oz is not running his characters in this movie.
In a couple scenes he is, but by this time Frank had largely left. He did like a week on here. I think it's Kevin Clash is actually doing most of the puppetry, and Frank is only puppeteering. Yep. Frank is only puppeteering a couple of scenes.
Yeah, Kevin Clash was tapped to take over Frank's characters of Piggy, Fozzie, and Sam.
And then in some, I think usually it was Piggy's major scenes Frank would come in and do.
Yeah, he did some post stuff. He'd come in.
He was really big on doing. He kind of felt like Piggy had to be him.
I like the production notes that he gave Kevin Clash. Apparently, allegedly he told Kevin to play Miss Piggy like a truck driver wanting to be a woman, and to reference Fozzie Bear to Jerry Lewis.
And supposedly he was not big on this. He changed course, but early drafts of the script he went in. Oh, there's Winnie. Was there that puppet all the way on the left?
I keep looking for Uncle Deadly in this movie.
Uncle Deadly is not in this movie, unfortunately.
At all? He was in that crowd scene back there?
No. There's Sweetums.
Yep. He makes a couple appearances.
No, there was a large bird character who was only used a couple times on the Muppet Show, who I just realized actually tonight watching I never noticed before is in there. Statler and Waldorf. It was a Richard Hunt character that they only used a couple times on the original Muppet Show, and I'm almost positive I have the wrong name for the character. Winnie. No, it was Winnie. She ran the canteen. Some nefarious characters in the back. We'll talk about them in a few minutes. A lot of Fraggle Rock cameos. Bagoonie and is from a funny episode of Fraggle Rock, and a couple of Cantus's minstrels show up in here as pirates. And a lot of them had been in Muppet Christmas Carol as well.
Yeah, I have to agree with Frank. I was not sold on Mr. Bimble at first myself. Until, I was going to say, funny anecdote, after I finished watching the movie, I was walking around with my finger up and saying that, Mr. Bimble lives in my finger, and he's been to the moon twice.
Yeah, he didn't like it in the original script, and then as they got through, he's like, all right, the Bimble thing is kind of funny. And we were talking earlier about the human casting in this, and there he is himself, Tim Curry, who can do just about anything. And again,
he does comedy so well, and he does dark so well,
and which makes him absolutely perfect for. First of all, even if this weren't a production with the Muppets, holy cow, would he be a great Long John Silver. I mean, he's so good as Long John Silver. But the fact that you then put him with the Muppets, you watch and you're like, why didn't he do more with the Muppets? Because he's so versatile.
He's been wanting to do something with the Muppets for years.
Good. Oh, yeah, this is the right project. Wonderful little trick there where he tosses the apple to Gonzo. I'm going to ruin the magic for people. There are two apples. One is already in Gonzo's hand, so he tosses it. It basically lands at the foot of the puppeteer, Dave Goles, and Dave just has Gonzo reach down and he holds up an apple that's already screwed into Gonzo's hand. And that's a little movie magic for you.
Thank you. Thank the Wranglers for that.
Yeah, thank the Wranglers for that.
Tim Curry's actually said this is one of his favorite roles that he's ever done.
I believe it.
And afterwards, that someone created a puppet in the likeness of Long John Silver and gave it to him.
There is a Long John Silver puppet. This is a character that doesn't work for me here, though. This is one of the few things, I feel like this got lost somewhere in
they worked a long time to get this character because several iterations of this character. I think the second one probably worked better. From what I understood, there was one that was a sultry type of parrot. Very much like the parrot from the bit of this from the Muppet Show with John Cleese.
John Cleese is the Long John Silverstein.
Yep, which I kept on wanting them to make a reference to that in this. But they thought it was too sultry for a female character to be doing that in this movie.
And they said it got weird. It just got, even for them, it got weird.
Well, Tim Curry and, his movie history, sure.
Just never worked for me as a character.
Then they had a parrot named Stevenson after Robert Louis Stevenson.
Right.
Who was pointing out the differences between the movie and the book, and I thought that actually might have been a nice gag. Eventually could have gotten old, depending on how much they overdid it.
That character actually gained a little bit of traction because there was a DVD ROM game of this for Windows. That's right, guys. It's 25 years old. Yep. And the guide through that was Stevenson the Parrot. Was a parrot puppet Stevenson. I love
the same.
So many of these background puppets are so gorgeous to look at. And there's Sam Eagle.
It was one of Sam's biggest movie roles, or biggest roles in general.
Yeah.
Just plays off so well.
There's J.P. Gross as the coachman. I just love watching all of the background puppets. I mean, so many of these guys just look so great. There goes Bagoonie running by the screen. God, and then of course this stuff is so funny too. He's got demons. The likes of no man can understand. He's got demons? Cool. It's great.
That's why I love Gonzo. Just those left-handed.
I was talking about my friends before. That was another line that we would constantly reference and make reference to and constantly quote. I think this is one of the few times you see J.P. Gross in a Muppet movie. No, it's not true. He's in the background of Christmas Carol as well, now that I think about it. And
Okay, so who's that guy?
Who cares? Love this wonderful shot of them on the thing, and then there's Kermit.
Well, I think I'm just happy as can be. I like.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I like Sam's reactions. Is that? Oh, okay, no, I thought that was Emmett Otter. It's not.
No, but I think a lot of this. I think some of the like possums and badgers and some of the background puppets from that ended up being refurbished and used in this.
This is some great work, puppetry work of Sam, because you get a much more fuller profile of him, and just the way that they move his hands and his whole body movement. It's just a much more complex or more detailed.
Well, even the puppetry of Kermit walking up the gangplank, I've always thought is just beautiful. You know.
Yeah.
And then all these wonderful things with Sam threatening to like flog the crew and shoot them on sight, and Kermit. I didn't say that. I was anticipating your will. I mean, again, just so much funny stuff.
I was paraphrasing.
Early digital effects where you're removing Tim Curry's leg. I mean, that just
I like this gag with the rats.
Even by today's standard, that blows my mind. That
I thought they had it pulled back.
In some shots it is. In some shots it's wrapped in a green casing, and he's you'll see it a little bit during the song here. You'll see him sitting on a thing, and his leg is actually just wrapped in green, and they told the camera not to see the green. He's green. His leg is green screened out, I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah. But you can kind of see the way the dressing of his pants hang. You can kind of see that there's they're wrapped around something. You know, you can see that there's something there.
Something there. Because he tried it with like a peg leg, and he just didn't like how it worked.
Yeah,
that's why he went with the crutch.
I will say one thing in this movie that bothers me is that this ship keeps changing sizes, and it becomes really evident later in the film. This is a great song.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
That really bothers me. I love that albatross puppet that was just on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my movie just stopped. Hang on.
All right, let me pause.
No, you're good. Keep talking.
Okay.
I don't know where my movie went.
Yeah.
So, no, you want me to pause my movie? Okay,
Did I?
Yeah, I see what you mean about the leg. Yeah, he's suspended above.
Right there.
And you got, you can tell that there's something behind those pants. And it's Tim Curry, so we're going to leave that remark right there. And you start figuring, there's Lou. You start figuring out who some of these characters are and how they fit into the story.
I'm in. I'm back.
All
Is
right.
Fozzie singing now on your screen?
Yeah, he just spoke, and here comes
Sam. So the movie
Sam.
was still going. My computer decided to give me notifications.
And then you got the three henchmen.
Yeah. Oh, we should talk about the three henchmen, but specifically this guy in the middle. That this film is notable. You and I were saying this earlier. This is the film debut of Mr. Bill Beretta. Some of his first Muppet work, and then of course Muppets Tonight. He had been a body performer for Earl Sinclair on the Dinosaurs, which you can now watch on Disney Plus. And then his first major character is in here as Clueless Morgan, the goat.
Oh, nice.
And of course, your normal collection of background characters that he voices as well and performs in this. But he's Clueless Morgan. And then, of course, Pepe the King Prawn. And he went on to do Johnny Fiamma and now does a lot of Rolf and Dr. Teeth and The Swedish Chef. And he's sort of a rare bird in that he's, I think, one of the few Muppet performers left who is not only performing legacy characters, but also has one or two characters. He's got, Pepe the King Prawn. Which is an original character of his. All of the other puppeteers, Matt Vogel, for as talented as he is all wrapped up in
legacies.
Doing Jerry Nelson's characters, doing Kermit. Dave Rudman is doing a bunch of Richard Hunt's characters. Eric Jacobson is doing all of Frank Oz's characters. Peter Linz has Walter, and then is doing a bunch of Richard Hunt's characters, and then Billy's actually got Pepe, which is his. I kind of would like to see the Muppets start to push. Oh, Peter actually has Walter, and then he's Joe the Legal Weasel too, so he's got two.
Oh, okay, he does. And
I'd kind of like to see them push the performers a bit more in crafting their own characters. This scene here with the...
Oh, I love this scene.
I love the roll call, and I love the whole... What is this? Man, Monty, have we gotten to old Tom Sweetums?
Tom.
Old Tom. Real old Tom. Dead
really
Tom.
Old Tom.
I mean, it's so funny.
Dead Tom. And the reactions.
Yeah, right. Steve's
reactions are the best part.
This is actually my favorite performance of Steve Whitmire as Kermit the Frog. He's so good in this. You can tell he's really stepped into it. He's figured out how to do it.
This is my favorite part.
I'm sure it is.
But the reaction, the two of them,
Kermit and Sam.
Yep.
And you can tell that's a Steve Whitmire and Kevin Clash working together, kind of like, hey, I know what to do with this.
And they just, the two of them. All right, let's just go. Nice to go back to the quarters. What the heck's going on here? This
is a great Kermit the Frog freak out.
Yeah.
And everybody blames Fozzie. Fozzie blames his finger.
Fozzie blames his finger. And that's where the bit really starts to take in.
This, I gotta say, and I think I said this when we talked about Muppet Christmas Carol too, but I feel this way on both of these films. The fact that Polly Smith was not nominated for an Oscar for costume design on either of these films is one of the biggest travesties. Because for so many reasons, I mean, usually when a movie... the Oscar for costume design almost always inevitably ends up in a period piece. There's a lot of research that goes into making a period film and to doing the costumes and getting the costuming right on a period film. Polly Smith to do duty here. We're not making the pieces, making period costumes, but also making period costumes that are right for those characters. I mean, utilizing the pinks and the whites of Fozzie's.
Fozzie, keep on wanting to get a drink. Bunsen and Honeydew, keep on trying to get a drink in there. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just enjoying this bit.
Using like the colors of Fozzie's tie, and that's all his outfit is the colors from his tie. And
his outfit is brilliant.
And making to do Sam Eagle and to wrap him essentially in an American flag and also the British colors, but really the red and white stripes, and sort of make him an American Eagle in this very British film. And then when we talk about, when you see Miss Piggy's costume later, I mean, all of this is just wonderful, wonderful work. You've got to make it fit the character, make it look right for the character. It's not just making a costume for a puppet. It's got to be a costume for that character. And then on top of that, what you also have to realize is there's a technical side here to the costuming the Muppets, which is the puppets have weight to them. So it's not like you can throw any fabric on them. You gotta try and make that costume as light as possible so you're not burdening your puppeteers. And that's not so much of a big deal with the Rats, who are generally lightweight puppets, but you think of a character like Angel Marie or even Dr. Teeth,
Sam,
Piggy, Fozzie, Sam, these characters have, you hold just, if you're listening to this, I want you to hold your hand up, just raise your arm up in the air for as long as you can and just kind of hold it there.
And not just any hand, your left hand.
Either one, just hold your hand up in the air for as long as you darn well can, and it gets tired after a while. And if you put weight on it, it's going to get tired even faster. And if you put
a
weight
winter
on
coat
that
on.
weight, it's going to be even, it's going to get tired even faster. So you got to be really careful costuming these puppets. There's a technical challenge to it as well. And I just think Polly Smith really, really, really needs to be recognized for that. It was wonderful.
The costuming in this is absolutely brilliant, just like in Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
The costuming between the Muppets and the human actors is just
even
so
more so Christmas
spot
Carol.
on.
But it's really beautiful work here. And then when you get to we'll talk about this. I should have saved this conversation for later, but I wasn't thinking. But when you look at Piggy's costume later on.
Yeah.
So it's funny. We were talking about how great how mind-boggling it was that they get Tim Curry's leg out of the movie, and yet this scene right here, this is some of the worst green screen. This is terrible.
Not even just this part, but part where they're sailing out too, where obviously the image behind Kermit is not there.
Yeah.
And then the ship is not sailing in that water that they're showing you.
Yeah.
So they spent, I guess, most of the money on Tim Curry's leg. And forgot to put it onto the rest of the special effects.
Look at his performance there. This is so great. I mean, just walking that line between "Can you trust me? Can you not trust me?" He's such a fine. I saw him on Broadway once. I saw him as King Arthur in Spamalot.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah. Well, when it was him, David Hyde Pierce, and Hank Azaria, and when they heard that was the cast, it was like, yeah, I can't. Gotta go see that. And
how did you stay in your seat?
I didn't. I'll tell you. It's the band. I love the band. I wish they'd been in this film more.
Yeah, and I like their line a little later on. Which side are we on? Just play the gig.
Don't get to the politics. Just play the gig.
Yeah, between
Steve's handwork here, just the little expressions in Kermit's face, so good, so beautiful.
It's such a tender moment.
And we were talking about costuming too, but look at Kermit's wig there. I mean, it looks really good on him.
You wouldn't expect a frog would look good with hair.
Yeah. But
well, here comes one of your ship shots at you.
And a little thing there, which became sort of for a while they were doing it all the time. The Kermit and the Shooting Star. They've done a lot of. Because they did a shot. Well, I mean, there's a shot in the Muppet movie, and then they did a shot in Christmas Carol. They did a shot in here, where he's looking at the Shooting Star, and then in Muppets from Space they do a shot where it's all the characters and a shooting star goes overhead. And I think they kind of abandoned the shooting star thing. No, I'm trying to remember. Do Kermit and Fozzie see one in the Muppets? In the 2011 one, when they're looking up they're lying in the hammocks and they're looking up at through the hole in the roof in the theater. I think there's a shooting star there.
There might be. That one again. It's another one that's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
I want to say I don't remember them being one in Muppets Most Wanted.
Yeah.
But don't quote me on this, but there might be one in the Muppets Christmas show special that they did for NBC.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched that once and then vowed to never watch it again.
I hadn't watched it in the longest time, and I actually found it. I think it was on Prime this year.
Yeah.
So I did go back and watch it. It's got some nice moments, and it's got some other moments that I wish they would move to Pittsburgh.
This is another scene where like Gonzo and Rizzo are being tortured. I mean, this is just dark stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you really need to.
But of course, it's typical Gonzo torture.
Well,
Which
yeah.
I want
you
to say
can-
they've
you can
done
do
this
it with
bit
torturing
before.
Gonzo here.
How excited Sam the Eagle is to lock somebody up.
The window shades. This is actually a pretty cool effect. All the stuff with. This is actually a really, really cool effect. Gonzo's legs here. And what's being puppeteered there. And we should I also want to toss in that the kind of, I actually go back and watch that shot there where he's spinning over the thing. I'm trying to figure out how they did that. But an added benefit of filming this movie in London, they've shot 4 of the. How many Muppet movies are we up to now? It's 8 Muppet movies? Yeah, 8.
Yes. They actually put that at the beginning of Muppets Most Wanted. This is the 7th sequel to our original movie.
Right. So it's 8. I just want to make sure I got the number there right. But it's 8 Muppet movies. 4 of them have been shot in London, which are Caper, Christmas Carol, Treasure Island, and Muppets Most Wanted. They filmed in England and in London. And an added benefit every time they film in London is they get Miss Louise Gold to puppeteer. And particularly in this film, I mean, her voice is so wonderful and it's so distinctive. It's always great to hear her in the songs. And
usually our buddy Mike Quinn gets to pop in every
well, he's I think, yeah, we talked to him a couple months ago and about where this is. Here we go. We were talking about this. You and I were talking about there's Beaker's legs. I love seeing Beaker. I always love seeing the character's legs. I mean, just. But you and I were talking about this song just before we started recording. That this song really needs to go viral. Oh no! Was that before we recorded? I've totally forgotten. No, we were actually recording when I said.
No, I think it was
good.
just as we started recording. It wasn't during the pre-hour.
We can end the show now because we've gotten to the point where I've run out of things to say and have started repeating myself. But here it is, Cabin Fever. This is such a funny song. Let's say that's not a Fraggle Rock character. But that guy, Mudwell the Mud Bunny. And
why does he look familiar?
Who?
The coconut-looking guy with the big nose.
That's Mudwell the Mud Bunny. He's from an episode of Fraggle Rock.
Oh, okay. And of course,
I think we're talking about the same. When you see him again, I actually love this guy with the red mustache too. I love the way his mustache.
He's shown up in a couple of scenes already.
Yeah, Jacques Roach, who Steve Whitmire used to play him on the Jim Henson Hour, and Jerry Nelson puppeteers him here or is voicing him here. And there's another Jerry Nelson singing a character with no name, although I just called him Jacques Roach. Oh, look, here's Jerry Nelson singing another character, as well as Louise Gold. And here's Jerry Nelson doing more, and Louise Gold also singing. I mean, this is 30 seconds, and we've heard Jerry Nelson sing 3 different lines for 3 different characters. I have no idea who's doing real old Tom there. You'll hear a sort of Pepe-ish voice. That's Bill Beretta there doing a precursor Pepe.
Yeah. Pepe would fit nicely into this, but this is before his time.
Just before Pepe and Treasure Island tonight.
A couple months. Well, release date. Obviously, filming was substantially more earlier.
Yeah. But
I like this bit.
Funny song. And then a lot of these costumes, what's good is that a lot of these costumes, speaking of Muppets Tonight, there's a song called Coffee that they did. I can't remember what episode it's in. It's great. It's actually, speaking of Louise Gold, too. Louise Gold did one thing for Muppets Tonight, I believe.
Bunsen, that looks so weird with the mustache.
The handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
Louise Gold recorded a song called Coffee for Muppets Tonight, and it's this big sort of calypso number, and all of the... they reused a lot of the puppets and a lot of the costumes from Cabin Fever for that. There we go. Oh. And so with these three puppeteers here, this is Kevin Clash as Polly Lobster. That's Bill Beretta puppeteering Clueless Morgan. And Jerry Nelson, who I'm going to talk about a lot. I always talk about Jerry Nelson, is Mad Monty. I love the design of Mad Monty. I mean, that's such a great classic Muppet monster look. And then if you're actually looking closely, his eyes are actually on his hat.
I was going to say the eyes are in the hat or part of the hat.
I mean, they're part of the hat. And I mean, it's just such a weird thing. Beautiful. And Tim Curry playing this. So
let me do another drop where we're talking about Jerry. That Matt Vogel on his show has a lot of stuff from Jerry Nelson's personal diary and unreleased files.
Oh wow!
Singing and doing stuff that he put onto the podcast. Him and some of the other performers read and talk about their time with Jerry. So if you want to find out more about this
amazing puppeteer,
guy that influenced so many people,
kind of. And I say this without judgment. They're kind of a thing. Certainly, the early days of the Muppet Show, Jim and Frank were the steam engine. Jim and Frank drove the thing. Jim Henson and Frank Oz were both very, very talented. There is no denying that. Jerry was in there very much from the early beginning. Jerry had such a range and did so many characters. Because Jerry had so much range and did so many characters, he never really had a character that was center stage. And I think that kind of weighed on him a little bit. He himself has said he never realized it wasn't till sort of 2001, 2002 when they did the Muppet Fest out in California, and they did like a weekend-long, Muppet fan convention, where he really experienced the outpouring of love and realized how, he did work, he knew the work was enjoyed, it was certainly work he was proud of, but he didn't realize how much of it, how the effect that he really had on these people until he really had the chance to meet them.
Mm-hmm. Here's one of the few scenes you ever see Sam Eagles
legs. But this was the scene I wanted to talk about, where in the books where they throw Mr. Arrow overboard, it is such a dark moment in the books. Mm-hmm. And yet here, this is an excellent use of this character, just sort of playing into Sam, that kind of Sam is going to uphold the dignity, and Sam is going to uphold the safety of the ship. Sam is going to be the first officer, and they just play into Sam's personality and make it this sort of lighthearted. And then it goes into this stuff that we're about to get into here. This puppet here is Mudwell the Mud Bunny. He's from an episode of Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. He's in Fraggle Rock, and then he's also in the background of Christmas Carol.
Yes, he is.
But we're about to do this eulogy here. It is such a great speech. This is so funny. I just love this. And then you cut to these guys escaping.
Jailbreak.
The jailbreak. Again, it's just such a wonderful use of these characters and the personalities. So what else? We talked about Jerry Nelson. We talked about Louise Gold. That's it. I'm out of stuff to talk about for the movie. I'm sure we're going to get to stuff that I can talk about in the movie.
We'll get to stuff. We're in a slower part at the moment.
Yeah.
Let me bring up, though, we'll get to the whole Hormel incident.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to it.
But this is right out of the book.
I was gonna say
the apple scene. But while we're looking at apples, let's talk about Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 70%, but the fan meter gave it a 77%. And I feel it's a little low. It's not one of my favorite Muppet movies either, but I think it deserves higher than that.
I think it's one of the funnier Muppet movies. But yeah, as you said, some of the comedy is a little forced. This Polly Lobster gag never quite lands for me. I really want it to. It's a character that never quite works for me. But yeah, you're right. This scene in the apple barrel is probably one of the few things that is faithful to the book, with the exception of Gonzo and Rizzo being there.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And well, I guess we can bring up.
I also love I keep talking about these lines that we quoted all the time in high school, and it all seems so weird to me. Mr. Arrow being dead, well, that and there's starfish in my pants, was another one that would get thrown around a lot.
How come we never use that line?
I don't know, because there's starfish in my pants. But I'm sorry, we will use that more often. I'll make a point to quote that with you.
Yeah, well,
it makes you feel.
But originally, before they casted, was it Kevin Bishop as Hawkins? That it was going to be they split the character between Gonzo and Rizzo.
Right, one was going to be Jim and one was going to be Hawkins. Yeah.
Until they casted Kevin Bishop to play the main character, and I think that actually works out better.
Yeah.
And kind of reprises. They're not so much the same characters as they were in Christmas Carol as the narrators, but they kind of serve a similar purpose, or just more of a backup. But they just work better in this capacity.
I don't think. Excuse me. I don't think, as much as I love Gonzo and as much as I love Rizzo and as much as I love the interplay between Dave Goelz and Steve Whitmire, I don't think Gonzo and Rizzo have the personalities to drive the movie. And you really need a character who can drive the movie forward,
Yep.
Because Gonzo and Rizzo are kind of fools in that they're sort of. They work better as a kind of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern than trying to make them Hamlet, if that makes any sense at all.
Perfect.
Okay, good.
To
but
me,
yeah,
perfect sense.
They really are a more Rosencrantz and Guildenstern kind of characters, commentators. They work better as commentators than as engines to drive the. Here's another thing that always bothered me about this movie is that New Zealand is one of the bad pirates. And I love Lou. He's one of my favorite characters. I want to see New Zealand be a good guy. I don't want to see New Zealand be a bad guy with the pirates. Pirates.
He's like one of the few main, not original characters to be casted that way.
Yeah. It upsets me because as we've established, we did our list of favorite Muppets a couple of years ago, and as we've established, Lou is one of my favorites. That's a nice shot there of Rizzo looking at the mirror, or looking at the window of the ship. Talk about your bad green screen.
Yeah.
You can see that seam. Wow.
That one's right. Okay, it's right there.
Right there.
They're in the giant pool.
Wow. That's. But then we cut to this shot here, and I mean, this is just beautiful and spooky.
It gets a lot creepier.
And we start to see this, and then we immediately pan back, and there's the band playing the music, which I think is very establishing that they're providing the music for the
soundtrack.
Music interlude.
Which is a very long soundtrack. It's 17 tracks.
Did it really?
17 tracks, which pretty much are all songs, which I think that's one of the other things that kind of drags this movie, that I think maybe a lot of people might have had issue with, is that every several minutes you're into a song and you're not driving narrative.
I think the problem. I think your problem, because I've actually tried to write a pirate puppet show, and one of the problems I have is that once you're on a boat and you're on the ocean, you're kind of stuck there. It's a real problem of what to do with characters when they're on a boat. When they're on land and they're prepping, that's one thing. When they're on the island and they're searching for treasure, that's another. but it's that boat journey that really drags you down. So you have you have Cabin Fever there, which you're right. It's not a song that serves the purpose of the film. It doesn't serve a narrative purpose. This song is just wonderful because it's Tim Curry, and you don't really need more than that.
And as he explains, it's his only song.
It is his only song. And they also did this live. This is not Tim Curry to a pre-recorded track. They had pre-recorded it, but it didn't work, and they found it was better if he did it on location, if he did it live.
Yeah, but being that the caliber of an actor he is with his background, that's not something new for him.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I cringe, not the way I cringe in other parts of this movie, but coming up at the end of this song, you've got all these Muppets carrying torches, and I just think, my God, I could never. Literally, you got one of the puppets there, one puppet turns its head wrong, and that's half the cast.
It's amazing how quickly felt goes up.
Yeah, you don't want to think about that. But, I mean, look, that is a very furry puppet close to an open flame.
But is it actually as close as it looks?
That's fair enough, but still, in one of the shots there, it was. Bill Beretta, that's not actually Bill Beretta as that character, but he's voicing the I could have been a contender. That's actually Bill Beretta doing that line.
Oh, okay, so it's not the actual...
It's him singing it, but it's another actor.
Not the actor.
Lip syncing to Bill Beretta. I love a lot of this stuff where they're stealing the watch. This is just wonderful interplay. This little guy here down the bottom left is a character, I said Bagoonie earlier. He's from Fraggle Rock.
So you leave the ship's safety in the hands of Beaker, Bunsen Honeydew, and Fozzie.
I think at that point you kind of get what you deserve.
So should anyone be surprised of what happens next?
I was kind of a little disappointed we don't see more of Angel Marie as a... I mean, I'm sure that puppet has turned to toast by now. I'm sorry, the toast is the puppet, the foam in the puppets does degrade over time, and Muppets who have fallen into that, they're referred to as toast. Here we go. The Muppets with torch. This, I have agita. I have such agita watching this. I can't begin to describe how... nauseous I am. I mean, not in a bad way. It's it's beautiful puppetry, but I'm like...
You'd hate to be the left hand.
I would really hate to be any one of those puppeteers, because I would be the one who set the film on fire. I really would be the one who... I can't even tell. Okay. Look, oh my God, dude, stop turning with the fire and the flame. We need to skip ahead. Seriously, 30 seconds. You and I both need to skip ahead right now because I can't watch this anymore. I'm so nervous. But, pump the fire. And I'm the new captain.
But those are nice and long sticks that they're using too.
That too, but still, I would set a human being on. Something would be on fire after I was done.
It's a good thing those firearms weren't loaded.
I was gonna say that's such a great line. It's a shame our firearms weren't loaded. Yeah, we might have shot somebody. It's a great line.
And Honeydew just gives them a quick look.
Considering that in Great Muppet Caper, what is it? Bunsen has the line about, Fozzie and Bunsen have a similar exchange where they talk about jumping off of the thing. And so, are you crazy? That's 100 feet. Well, I didn't say it was a good suggestion. Sorry.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, sorry, it was my chair. I'm about to, I'm being told I have a low, so I'm going to try and, why aren't I charging? I'm panicked. You may lose me in the middle of your recording.
Oh boy. See, I love this scene with the eyeballs. Again, with some great eye work here. Now, once you get your device plugged in, I would love to hear you illuminate on how they illuminated the eyes.
What worries me is that I think my device is plugged in.
Ooh, that's how good. Is the wire plugged in?
I don't know.
Is your outlet plugged in?
Well, the light is on, but nobody's home. No, hang on. I think I got it. Okay, we're good. There we go. Okay.
Hear the
Sorry.
bang.
Okay, so yeah, those problem? What problem? So yeah, though the eyes, those are, the puppets are built with. I mean, if you watch that scene again, I was going to point that out when I wasn't panicking. If you actually watch that scene going into it, you can tell Kermit and none of their eyes are slightly tinted. You can't. Something about their eyes looks weird. It's basically like a glow in the dark or like a UV. And you put it under a UV light and you black everything else out and you just see Kermit and you just see everybody's eyes. But it's sort of specially built eyes for that scene, or specially built puppets that have those eyes. And here we are with Spam. And you want to talk about this?
So yeah, apparently Hormel Food Corporation, the makers of Spam, took offense with a puppet by the name of Spam, spelled with 2 A's and an apostrophe separating them, and sued the production company over the use of Spam versus their Spam. Eventually, the claim was thrown out on September 22nd, 1995, several months before the movie opens, with the judge allegedly stating that one might think Hormel would welcome the association with a genuine source of pork. Free publicity. Why would you want that?
Yeah, and I mean it's
the Henson Company, so it's again.
It's not like the cat. It's not. He's an awful character or he's a bad guy. He's a pig, it's not like this. They only do the gag once, but supposedly there was an earlier draft of the script where the Spam joke featured more heavily, and I guess Hormel had somehow seen that version of the script, although why would I don't know, but yeah.
I'd hate to be the puppeteer that has to be behind the elephant.
They actually, apparently it was a big thing that because elephants fall asleep easily, they had to keep the elephant entertained to keep it from falling asleep.
Oh, speaking of falling asleep, do you want to tell the story about the motion sickness medication? I don't know the story of the motion sickness medication.
I don't know the story about the motion. This is, I believe, Bill Beretta as Flaubert the Anteater. And again, here we talk about Miss Piggy's costume. I mean, look at this. You want to make that headdress as light as possible because somebody's got, and that dress as light as possible because Frank's got a puppeteer under there. And I think at this point we are into Frank's actual puppeteering. I think.
Yeah. And then you got before that the 2 female dancing pigs leading the parade.
Yeah.
That would, again, just elegant puppet design.
Link Hogthrob here.
Typical. Oh, there's Link.
Yeah. No Doctor Strange pork, though.
Sadly.
We're watching this with the sound off. I feel like we just missed another really good Gonzo line that everybody used to quote in high school.
Going back to the medication when they were on the ship, because it's on a jib and it's moving back and forth. Brian Henson was afraid everyone's going to get seasick and ruin the picture that way, so he gave everyone motion sickness medication, which no one really got upset stomachs from the motion of the ship. It was actually making between the medication and the rocking of the ship, making everyone fall asleep. And Tim Curry actually says to Brian, "I am going to kill you when I wake up," because he just knocked him out.
But here we go. This is what I was talking about. This sort of a shot here where the puppet's down in the
trench.
It's such a great shot. Look at that. Look at that. And then also here where they're off to the side, you got a couple shots of them off to the side there. I always love watching Muppet crowd scenes, and I think one of the reasons I like Treasure Island is there's so many great Muppet crowd scenes. I like Caper for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Curry, again, just Tim Curry, even without Muppets, this would have been it's such a great role for him to play. I love the design of Spam here.
Yeah. The one and only appearance of Spam is in this movie. Yep. There's the Swedish Chef.
Yeah.
In a pig costume.
In a pig suit. And the tomato. Just another Jerry Nelson doing a one-off character. There you go. I think at that point that was I don't remember if that was Bill or I think Steve was actually doing the chef at this point, and then Bill took over later on. Rizzo suddenly realizing that he's out of the
moments out, after dancing around.
Here we go.
Beautiful set.
Beautiful set, and then this stuff is so funny. Dead Tom's dead. Long John shot him. The realization. And then this right here. And he just drops it. I mean, it's so funny. I love this. And then going into the stuff here. This is the scene coming up here. This bit coming up here with Tim Curry. You can see Tim just loving doing this. All this stuff about Satan is a heat in his pokers. I mean, this is classic Tim Curry work here.
Yeah. And just how he controls the scene.
Yeah. Monty hiding the Bible. This is why you hire Tim Curry for a role like this. I mean, this is just.
I forget. Is this bit from the book? I think it is, isn't it?
I know. Well, I mean, sort of, but no. I mean, yes, they give him the black spot. Yes, it's on the Bible. I think everything else there, though, is all the stuff about Satan is a heat in his pokers. That sort of born again, Baptist minister is just so camp. Only Tim Curry can do such a campy performance. Can go from being
evil to campy.
Yeah, well, sort of legitimate and then campy all at the same time, and it still works. Oh gosh. And I actually love. I mean, the puppets look so beautiful here. Look at that lighting.
And I like on the island, and this was even back in the beginning, the camera angles that they were able to work with and utilize, where the camera's basically in the sand.
Yeah.
And looking up and out. Almost like you don't see like an old war movie or something like that.
I'm trying. Holy cow! I'm just realizing that Kevin Clash has got to be puppeteering there, and you gotta
Underwater.
Underwater. I mean, I'm sure he's not. I'm sure that. Still, that's not an easy shot to get with a puppeteer. I think we might have talked about this last time. Is that there's a whole thing where, doing the Rainbow Connection, Jim was like folded into a diving bell, and it took him like an hour to. When they finished filming that scene, it took him an hour to like stretch his legs out and become, his full height again.
Yep, there's Zanzibar again.
Yeah.
You can make that a for this movie.
We just skipped over it, but there's the thing there where it says do you find that you have to do when the rat's there and they're like the scene this is the set used in Muppet Treasure Island. Do you find that you do that? That I find that anytime I refer to this movie, I can't just call it Muppet Treasure Island. I actually have to call it Muppet Treasure Island.
Yep.
Okay. That's not just a me thing. I love this is great. This is again talking about Polly Smith's costuming here. Look at Piggy's necklace there with the gold doubloons.
Balloons all just lined
Piggy's
up
always
around
had the pearl necklace, but you build the gold doubloons around that, and it's just
in the hair detail.
Yeah. This is just wonderful.
So is this Kevin or Frank putting on that performance?
This is Frank here. This is Frank because the Hello Long John is that's Frank. That's pure Frank. And apparently Frank actually caught Tim Curry off guard a little bit with that. But no, we were talking about, costuming. Again, you figure where Steve Whitmire's hand is doing Kermit, and then again, you're putting a hat on top of that. It throws off the way the puppet is going to perform and maneuver and manipulate. So again, lightweight. You want just that hat alone. You want to be as lightweight as possible, and you don't want to make that hat with the traditional mill work, with which you would make that type of hat, and yet you've got to make
that type of hat is a much thicker, sturdier hat.
Right, and yet you've got to make it look like it is made from those types of materials. I mean, I don't think people realize exactly how much that's a great effect with the headdress.
The head feathers off.
I'm sure that's just a wire pulled at the right time, but I saw a Muppet carrying fire again. Just saying. I'm really hoping that people are watching this alone, because otherwise this is going to be like the.
Well, why are they not saying anything? Well, you need to be really watching along. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. I'm
getting some dialogue here. Another bit of interesting history to this movie is that contractually.
Great crowd of puppets on boat. Sorry, who's contractually obligated?
Well, Disney signed with Henson. This is back whenever Henson was its own corporation. That they had a 2-movie deal with the third option, and I think Disney was quite interested in pursuing that third option till the Henson Company dropped the bombshell right before this movie released that they had signed a co-production deal with Sony.
Well, one of the Henson kids was Lisa was kind of high up in Sony. I love the no pirates and New Zealand knitting the pirate flag there. And then the sort of Ghostbusters pirate skull on Bunson's arm
patch. Yeah,
the arm patch there. Those funny little details. Nice big boat. This boat's going to get real small in a couple minutes.
But yeah, they wouldn't work together again until the 2011 Muppet movie, which was at that point the Muppets were part of the Disney.
Well, no, I mean, because there was what was the first? Was Oz was the first thing they did with Disney, wasn't it?
A major motion picture. But yes,
Oz
Oz was before
Oz
that.
was the first thing they did with Disney after they
That
sold.
was part of that was a Wonderful World of Disney special.
Yeah. And then there were a couple. There was like a short thing that they did on like the Disney Channel. It was like 2 or 3 episodes of something with Disney Channel stars. But I can't tell you what the name of it was. It was the first time that Dave Rudman did Janice. I know that.
Mm-hmm. They did the Muppets laughing. Not laughing. But it was a bunch of shorts that they did with Muppets and kids.
Right. And they did a whole bunch of stuff on the website for a while. They hit like the secret elevator tapes and the drive-ins.
The
stuff
Muppet
with
the viral videos were spectacular.
A lot of the viral videos, Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's the one that kicked it all off.
That still is, I think, one of the best things the Muppets have done, certainly with Disney, and certainly in the last, 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Popcorn.
This is a beautiful song. I actually do like this song, but you sort of what you were saying
Oddly
earlier.
Placed.
It does slow the movie down. The one thing that does get to here, first of all, Puppets Upside Down, think about how hard that is to do. This is probably not Frank. I can't imagine Frank at this point in the game being like, yes, I want to... Because what you have to do is you're almost on... They're on, platforms above hanging down. Hanging their arms down in puppeteering. But I do love this stuff here, cutting back to you have them singing this love song to each other, and you cut to the pirates in love with the treasure. And they do the sort of, not here, but this wonderful gag coming up with the play on the sort of running through the fields and hugging each other amongst between Angel Marie and the other guy. Again, that's just one of those gags that I remember just laughing at and thinking this is so silly. This is animatronic here, but here we go. Old Tom and Angel Marie running at each other.
Oh yeah, yep.
I just think that's so funny. It's a great visual.
The transposing, yeah.
And this is another one. This little vulture puppet here is another one that I love watching and looking at and looking for. He actually had a speaking role in Christmas Carol, I think. Piggy just looks really great here.
This is probably Kevin.
Yeah. Well, this is now they're an animatronic in that wide shot. Wow! Gosh.
And why did Piggy's rope break first? Physics, kids. Physics. Kermit's.
I love
the look on Kermit's face speaks
tiki.
Volumes.
I love the little tiki guys all over, and I love the pig ones, the sort of pig rock carvings that we're seeing earlier, and then the beginning of the film we have the tiki.
We got some more bad villain.
Again, crowd shots of Muppets. I love watching crowd shots of Muppets. And the only thing better than crowd shots of Muppets is crowd shots of Muppets where they suddenly all have to run, and there's always that one who just chews the scene and runs at the last minute. Goes left and then goes right and then goes out. There's almost always one in every Muppet crowd scene. And I'm not going to name names, but I'm fairly certain it's Dave Goelz who does it. Sort of a puppet. Hey, if you got something that works for you, lean on it, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. Run with it, literally.
Yeah.
So where did Fozzie get that hat?
But well, Fozzie's another good example. I mean, Fozzie is a big puppet to begin with, and he's so top heavy because of that sort of cone-shaped head that he has. So when you're putting these giant feathered hats on him, that's weight on a puppet. And the way it distributes, and then have Statler and Waldorf save the film.
Of course.
I remember Brian Henson commented that like one of his biggest fears was that by having Statler and Waldorf comment on the movie as much as they did, he's like, when and if bad reviews come in for this film, it's going to be literally our own quotes thrown back at us. It's going to be everything that Statler and Waldorf said about not being able to save the movie, about being stuck out in the audience. I love this with Sam swinging across, but now here we go. He swings across. Nice big boat, nice little boat.
Yep.
Oh boy. But this is great. All the sword fighting here, and this is actually when you get to once you give to Kermit. This is actually a professional fencer here doing Kermit's left hand.
Really?
Yeah. Especially when we get to the bit coming up where he's cutting off the buttons off of Tim Curry's coat. That's all. I love Rizzo spinning as he comes down. That's all. Steve Whitmire doing the head and body, and then a professional sword fighter, professional fencer doing all the sword work. Now we had Jerry Nelson was voicing the Roach character there during the Cabin Fever song, but now it's Steve Whitmire, or it was Steve Whitmire there. And as I said, there was a character. Oh, I don't think I really talked about this earlier. That character was on the Jim Henson Hour back in the 80s. It was a character that that Steve Whitmire did in a couple of episodes.
You did. Yeah, you brought that up that he was in that.
I couldn't remember if I actually mentioned the show.
Yeah, there's
I doubt we'll ever see the Jim Henson I don't think the Jim Henson will ever see light of day again. But boom.
And he thanks his finger. Or the mayonnaise finger.
Oh, I love this. Sweetum's coming in. It looks like they're in trouble, and he actually knocks out the bad guys. And this actually, I forgot to mention, this is actually John Henson here. This is actually Jim Henson's second eldest son, or the fourth eldest of his children, second eldest of his son. I like the detail of when Polly swings across there. You still see Yves Saint Laroche starfish to the side of the boat there. I think it's a nice detail. Here we go. This, I gotta confess, I've never figured out. I still cannot figure out how. That's not digital. That is practical effect. But
really, I thought
danged if I know.
Digital.
That is not digital. That is a practical effect, and danged if I know how they do it. I've never been able to figure that out. I believe it's just on the puppet is just sort of on a pole that's green screened out, and he's sort of rotated, and I think that's how it's done, but I wouldn't swear to it. This is their professional fencer there doing, and then Steve's doing all the head and the right arm there. He still knocks out Polly Lobster.
Takes a Polly.
I like the tattoo on Kermit's chest. This is all just great stuff. And then really
But
what
again,
it's all is
Tim Curry's reaction during that whole scene, again, just helps sell the whole gag.
well, yeah, acting is reacting. But again, I love this sort of Muppets coming together. And of course, like I said before, Muppet crowd shot.
Yep.
I love watching a good Muppet crowd shot.
Particularly with the pigs.
And then handing over the sword to the only one with hands, actually. It's like, there you go.
Anyone could actually accept it.
Yeah. Evil. I like we go from like light Muppet crowd shot to evil Muppet crowd shot here.
Did we see the one with the purple hair before?
The one with the purple hair? I don't know what you're talking about.
On the left side of the screen, the one kind of looked like an old witch.
Yeah, he's shows up a couple of times throughout the film. I know who you're talking about now. He shows up a couple of times throughout the film. And he's in Christmas Carol, too. Apparently, this was a big thing. They had to figure out the ending because it was sort of, Brian Henson said it was sort of weird. If the Muppets end up with the treasure, then you miss the point of the film, which is that family is the real treasure. If Tim Curry ends up with the treasure, then the bad guy wins, and you don't want that. So they made this choice here, which is really kind of wise, which is the treasure ends up at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's a slight departure from the actual narrative.
Right, because in the actual narrative, they all end up with the Smollett and Trelawney and everybody end up with the
treasure.
The treasure. And there's actually a whole point at the end of the film, or at the end of the book, where they talk about like the characters who are Long John's put on trial. Actually, I think he escapes, if I remember correctly, but he's actually put on trial. Sort of a slow point in the book, actually.
Yeah.
I remember when I read this, it was very evident to me that, because I think they sort of describe Squire Trelawney as being having a big pink nose and a fuzzy face. I'm like, well, that's Fozzie.
Yep.
And then later on, there's the sort of description of Ben Gunn having a hooked nose. And I thought, well, that's going to be Gonzo, especially when the character is slightly, the actual Ben Gunn character in the books is slightly removed from reality. And I thought, oh, well, that's going to be Gonzo. I was very surprised to find out it was Piggy playing that part. But
yeah, I thought that was an interesting cast, because I logically would think Gonzo would be the character of Ben because of just the natural fit.
Yeah. But at the same time, I also remember reading the book, and I'm like, well, there's nothing in here for Piggy. And I also thought Mr. Arrow is is a strong departure from the character in the books as well. And then this is great, just the throwback to the leaky lifeboats.
Yeah.
It's a great throwback to that gag.
It all comes full circle at this point.
Yeah. The pigs with Fozzie.
I was here.
And then here we go. I mean, just this, as it comes off here. To meet the Zanzibar Barbarians. And then, there you go. This great cut shot with the band. I love seeing the band.
Let's sing us out.
Sing. Although it's also very weird to see, like, the Muppets sort of dancing, bopping along is one thing, and then this 14-year-old boy bopping is
a little, yeah.
It looks awkward, but being 14 is awkward to begin with. Actually had, they used him. They did. Did you know this? They did the live at the O2 when the Muppets played the O2 arena a couple of years ago. In London, one of their special guests for that series of performances was they got Kevin Bishop in, and
Really?
he was one of the special guests, and I thought that was a really nice thing to acknowledge him as part of the Muppet family and his contributions to the Muppet family. And of course,
That's
the Muppet
fantastic.
performers. Here we go. Dave Goelz, who's Gonzo and Bunsen. Steve Whitmire, who was Rizzo and Kermit. Jerry Nelson, who's Mad Monty in this, and then the Kevin Clash, who was Polly Lobster.
And many others.
Bill Beretta, who is Clueless Morgan, and of course Frank Oz, who provided the voices for Piggy, Fozzie, and Sam Eagle, and with Kevin Clash doing a lot of the puppetry in there, that was Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah, and Frank Oz was also directing Bowfinger at the same time.
Was he? Yeah? Really? Bowfinger?
I believe it was Bowfinger that
Bowfinger was later.
His distraction from this.
I thought Bowfinger came a couple years later.
Well, release date and production date aren't always.
Yeah. I always like to read because I actually.
Right. Bowfinger didn't come out to 99.
Right. I think he was working on Bowfinger when they were doing Muppets from Space, because I know he wasn't on Muppets from Space a lot.
I thought he also didn't like that project.
I didn't like that project, but that's beside the point.
Thank you, Sony. Yes. But Muppets Tonight. Muppets Tonight. Muppets Tonight comes out in a couple months. Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah. We could talk about Muppets Tonight because that is also the 25th anniversary of Muppets Tonight.
Yeah. There was a short-lived series. I was starting to enjoy that series. Like I'll go back and watch that and find stuff from it that I like. You introduce a lot of new characters that have kind of followed through. You've lost some of them too.
Yeah, that was one of those things that that was one of those things, like when I watched it, there were a lot of things that I didn't care much for, and then like in later years I went back and rewatched it and really enjoyed it. I just saw Fred Buchholz's name go by, and I have to tell a quick story, which is that we were at a screening of some friends and I went to a here's Jerry Nelson doing another one-off characters, the Tiki character here. Some friends and I went to a screening of it was a drive-in movie screening of Muppet movie, the first, and we were talking to like one of the guys who was involved with who was involved with the screening and had worked for the drive-in movie there. It turned out to be Fred Buchholz, the stunt coordinator for this movie and some other. And one of the reasons they were able to screen the Muppet movie, and they also had Sweetums, was there like greeting cars as they came in, and they were able to organize that because it was Fred Buchholz, I think.
They'll undersell you a Studebaker.
I saw Louise Gold's name go by. Just looking to see because I think I know a couple of the puppet builders on this. But oh well. But there you go. That is 20th anniversary, and that was fun to watch with you.
Yeah, I hope everyone was watching along as well, because it just makes this episode that much more understandable.
And I hope the batteries didn't go out on any of your computers as they almost did with mine. So
yeah, that wouldn't be good.
That was a little scary.
Oh, the joys of technology.
Yes.
It's wonderful when it works.
I just love reading the credits in these things. I mean, look at this miniature supervisor, figurine supervisor, CGI characters. This is one of the first appearances of, and one of the few times you'll see CGI characters in a Muppet movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although they did experiment with Christmas Carol, they did a lot of digital effects and computer effects in there.
And Muppet Vision 3D.
A lot of the ghosts in Christmas Carol involved a lot of digital effects shots, a lot of the traveling from one place to another. Statler's the doorknob becoming Statler's head was, of course, done digitally.
I would say Statler and Waldorf, I would think, would have to have been some enhanced by some CG work.
Not so much CG work. No, there's old school film techniques you can do for that, and puppetry techniques and bunraku and blacklight. That's actually a relatively easy effect to do. With the exception, I say easy, but
Easy is a relative term.
Yeah, easy with a lot of coordination and rehearsal with your puppeteers. And then it's the we were talking about the where does the treasure end up, and the fact that ultimately it's the rats. They hit on the idea of the rats getting the treasure. They felt was appropriate. So,
yeah, sure.
I guess. Yeah, sure. All right. So there we have it, Muppet Treasure Island.
Muppet Treasure Island. There you are. Thank you for your insight.
I'm thank you for having me to impart my insight.
Oh, always
movie.
A pleasure.
Yay.
As I always say, we don't have you on enough.
That's fair. We'll talk about that when we stop recording, because I got some thoughts.
I love your thoughts.
I get ideas.
How long have we been discussing this project?
For a while. We've wanted to do. Yeah, we sort of went. After we did Christmas Carol, we knew we wanted to do Treasure Island, but I think even at the time we said, oh, no, I think you asked me to do this with you a year ago, and I said, no, let's hold out and we'll do it. We'll do it next year when it's the anniversary.
Yep.
And then I'll meet you back here in another 5 months when it's not your birthday, and we'll do the Great Muppet Caper. And everyone's going, what do they mean it's not his birthday?
Oh, great. I'm going to have to watch another Muppet movie? Yes, you have to watch another
mind.
Muppet movie. And
Conversation from before we were recording. I forgot Matt's birthday.
enjoying a lot. That's all right. I like to forget my birthday too sometimes. But thank you so much. Let's say goodbye to our audience here.
Goodbye to our audience here.
And we will be doing this again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yay.
What are, if any of your favorite moments from Muppet Treasure Island? Do you even like the movie? Or do you not like the movie? Do you not care for it so much? Let us know. Join the conversation on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Disney Marvels Podcast. Join our Facebook group, Facebook.com/Disney Marvels Podcast. Or Facebook.com/group/Disney Marvels Podcast. Find us on the Instagram at Disney Marvels Podcast or on Twitter or on Twitter at Disney Marvels. You can also email the show with any suggestions, answers, or voice messages through disneymarvels@gmail.com. That's right. Record a message on your smart device, email it to us, and you may just hear yourself on the show. You could also do this through the messaging or the voice apps through the Anchor app and or Anchor.tv website. Links to everything is in the show notes. Also make sure to check out the Disney Marvels blog, which is at disneymarvels.blogspot.com. A lot more additional conversations going on over there. I want to thank you for your time. I know how crazy, how little time we all have these days, and just, everything keeps happening at once, doesn't it? But the fact that you've taken some of that time out and spent it with us really means a lot to me and my co-hosts. We get to spend time with you. I know we're not physically next to you, but we're virtually with you. And, seeing that how much you guys enjoy the show means a lot to us, and that's what keeps us going. 122 episodes. That's a long time that we spent together. Whether you're new, or you've been around for a little bit, or you've been there from the beginning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Make sure, tell people about the show. Obviously you are, because see that people keep on, downloading the show, and more people keep downloading the show. It means a lot. Easy way to do it, go on to Apple Podcasts or iTunes and leave a rating. We have all 5-star reviews at the moment, and I'm so lucky and so blessed that that's what you guys think of the show. And please keep it going. Go on there. If you haven't done it yet, put your review in. It helps more people find out about the show. Apple will join in and start telling people about the show, and then there'll be a whole bunch of us. It'll be the biggest Disney family out there. That's quite a dream and quite something. So make sure you do that. Leave a rating. While you're at it, make sure you subscribe to the show. Because the more Disney people and the bigger the family, the better. Won't believe that? I believe that. So don't forget to subscribe to the show while you're at it. This way you always know when new episodes are posted. But while you're at it, also consider becoming a premium subscriber to help the show out, keep the lights on, keep the computers running. You can do this over at anchor.fm/DisneyMarvels/support or find our Patreon page. Links to all those are in the show notes as well. Because remember, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. Whatever you're facing out there, whatever troubles, whatever darkness haunts you, don't give up. Don't let the darkness win. I know it's hard and it seems overwhelming, but find that light within you. Hold on tight, embrace it. The more you embrace it and the tighter you hold, the more it will shine and it will push that darkness away. It won't necessarily happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but don't give up. Never give up and never give in. Be your own hero and shine for the world to see, even if it's just for yourself. Do something for yourself and you will feel better. Now I'd like to end this show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. Fun and wonder are the important elements, in addition to quality in the production and performance, which are most responsible for the success of Disney productions. Fun in the sense of cheerful reactions, the appeal to love of laughter. Wonder, in that we appeal to the constant wonder in men's minds, which is stimulated by imagination. Again, that's from Walt Disney himself. Thank you again for listening, everybody, and I'll see you next time.
Big fat ugly bug-faced baby-eating O'Brien? Aye.
We got cabin fever, we lost what sense we had. We got cabin fever, we're all going mad.